In 200 yards, at Wagoners Roundabout, take the second exit onto the Parkway, A312. Exit the roundabout onto the Parkway. Continue on the Parkway for 1 mile.
But really, what I would have loved to have seen, not only an address to the cost of living crisis, but the joy of a windfall tax, for example, is not only would it help to reduce people's energy bills, but it could, under Liberal Democrats' formulation, help to kickstart a 10-year programme of insulating homes, which would be a way of reducing our energy consumption overall.
In the event of a hung parliament, and that's what the numbers at the moment show is quite likely, would you team up with Labour?
Well, I think the next general election is a long way off. We don't know when it's going to be. We don't know what the state of the country is going to be. What I say right now is that Liberal Democrats are in second place to the Conservatives in around 80 seats around the country. We've said many times before that we will focus our energy and resources on trying to win seats off the Conservative government because that's our #1 priority.
Do you think that Keir Starmer, if he's found to have broken the rules of Beergate, should resign?
Well, I think Keir Starmer has said himself that he should resign if that happens.
He said he'd resign if he got a fixed penalty notice, if he actually had to pay a fine. He hasn't said that he'd resign if he simply broke the rules.
Sure. Well, I think my position is that no politician should break the law, and no politician...
In a quarter of a mile, at Cranford Parkway interchange, take the second exit onto the M4 slip road to Heathrow Airport, M25.
The leaving parties that we heard about in number 10 really were so clear cut that many of those broke the law. And what I'd also say is that when it came to Boris Johnson and number 10, these were the people who made these rules. These were people who made the rules, they wrote the rules, they were on television every single day telling people that if they broke the rules then people would lose their lives, and they're the ones that ultimately broke them. And I think in addition to just breaking the law, what we've also had with Boris Johnson is the lies and the cover-up and the fact that he's now subject to 3 different inquiries.
See, Daisy, when you put it like that, you do sound as if you are, as it were, drifting to the left. that you are nearer the Labour analysis of all of this than the Conservative one.
Well, I'm an opposition party MP. It's my job to work on behalf of my constituents to hold the government to account, and that's what I will continue to do.
Sure is, Daisy Cooper. Thank you much. Thank you all very much indeed. Coming up, one of the people who was critical of the Prime Minister today was Theresa May, who urged Boris Johnson in the Commons to abide by international law. So, what is going on with the Northern Ireland Protocol? You're listening to Andrew Marr.
Exit the roundabout onto the slip road.
The government has been accused of failing to help those...
In a quarter of a mile, merge onto M4.
Speech. Labour has repeated calls for a windfall tax on energy companies, but Boris Johnson insists they've taken the right approach. Prince William's given a deeply personal tribute as he attended the opening of a public memorial for those killed in the Manchester Arena attack in 2017. He told bereaved families that as someone who lives with his own grief, he understands the importance of remembrance. NatWest has apologised after thousands of customer accounts mistakenly showed debit card purchases twice. The bank says they'll make sure no one is left out of pocket. And the weather cool and breezy with showers in the north tonight, cloudy with patchy rain in the south and a low of 7.
This is LBC.
Want a better broadband deal? Right now, TalkTalk have even faster speeds at the same great value. Get a super fast speed boost at no extra cost. Average speeds of 67 megabits per second for the same price as 38. Just £23.50 a month for 24 months. A super fast speed boost at no extra cost. Deals that make sense. Search TalkTalk Fibre. TalkTalk for everyone. Offer ends 25th May. CPI plus 3.7% annual increase from April 2023. Subject to availability. £9,095 post and packing. T's and C's apply.
Does your bank do more to support your business, while also standing up for the things that matter most to you? If the answer is no, maybe it's time to switch to a more ethical bank. At the Cooperative Bank, we've spent 30 years campaigning on issues like climate change and social injustice. And we also offer 30 months free everyday business banking on our business current account. How does your bank do business? Sole traders and single directors only. Apply online. Charges for cash and cheque transactions. Visit our website for details. Subject to status, eligibility and T's and C's.
This is LBC Tonight with Andrew Marr.
And the time is 6:35. Now, one of the biggest issues in the government in tray is what to do about the Northern Ireland Protocol. LBC's Westminster editor Ben Kentish joins me again in the studio. Ben, you told us that there was going to be a measure in the Queen's speech. It wasn't quite like that. You're clearly very well briefed, however, because something is up, and that something has already riled a very prominent politician. Tell us.
It has indeed, and Green reported exclusively 2 weeks ago the Queen's speech would allude to the plans to completely and unilaterally rip up the Northern Ireland Protocol that was agreed with Brussels just 2.5 years ago. We said the language around it might be slightly cryptic. In the end, it wasn't particularly cryptic at all. It's actually quite overt. The document accompanying the Queen's speech says this, Andrew. As we've seen following elections in Northern Ireland, the problems caused by the protocol continue to stand in the way of an executive being formed. They say we will continue to talk with the EU, but listen to this, we will not let that stand in the way of protecting peace and stability in Northern Ireland. A very clear reference to the plans being drawn up
To override the protocol.
unilaterally overriding in UK legislation. Now, reports today that Liz Truss, the Foreign Secretary who leads on this, has already decided that's where she wants to go, but some cabinet colleagues, Michael Gove, Rishi Sunak, said to be a little bit reluctant. Another person who's more than reluctant was Theresa May, who of course led the negotiations for much of the Brexit process after the 2016 vote. Have a listen to what she had to say in the House of Commons this afternoon.
I note that there is no reference to what has been referred to in the papers as a bill in relation to, I'm going to use the word, the Northern Ireland Protocol, and possibly to varying the terms of the treaty unilaterally. Can I say to my right honourable friend, and he will not be surprised if I say this, that I do not feel that would be the right move for the government. That I think
In a quarter of a mile, keep right to stay on M4.
but also the wider sense of what such a move would say about the United Kingdom and its willingness to abide by treaties which it has signed.
And you could see Boris Johnson visibly wincing there and squirming a little bit. Now, joining me is Carla Lockett.
Keep right to stay on M4.
Welcome, Carla Lockett. Now, your party wants this protocol to go completely, but the danger is...
Continue on M4 for 2 miles.
And the EU straight into confrontation at the worst possible time, given what's happening in the other end of Europe.
Our party, since the introduction of the protocol, we voted against it. We've always spoken against it. We have always urged the government around the implications of the protocol, both economically and constitutionally, and also to peace and stability within Northern Ireland. You will know that we stood for election last week, very much on the mandate of not returning to the executive within Northern Ireland until the protocol was resolved and the protocol was abolished. So therefore we are continuing to hold to that, and we do have the support of the electorate in that regard. If you look at the results of the election last week, it's very clear that the Unionist Party supports it.
That's clear, but Carla, surely the big problem here is that the DUP were also very, very fervent supporters of Brexit, and this is a direct result of Brexit. Brexit produces the border problem. You can't have a border on the island of Ireland, so there is nowhere else to have a sea border. So although you don't like it and you're protesting about it now, your party helped create this problem.
That's not the case, Andrew. You will know that Northern Ireland has not left the EU on the same level playing field as the rest of GB, and we do have a border in the Irish Sea. That is as a direct result of the protocol, something that the DUP have consistently opposed, warned against, and advised the government in relation to how it's impacting businesses and consumers within Northern Ireland, alongside the constitutional position within the United Kingdom.
Boris Johnson came over and told Northern Ireland business leaders very, very clearly that there was not going to be a sea border. We all remember the video of that, talking about throwing it
In a quarter of a mile, keep right to stay on M4.
as a party personally let down by the Prime Minister.
I certainly think we need the government to be true to their word. We obviously have heard the speculation around Liz Truss bringing forward legislation. We welcome that. We want to see the legislation.
Keep right to stay on M4.
Against our 7 tests that we outlined last week, but ultimately this is for the Prime Minister to deal with. He needs
Continue on M4 for 4 miles.
the Conservative and Unionist Party, and that they value Northern Ireland's place within the United Kingdom. They need to stay true to their word and restore our place constitutionally, do away with the Irish Sea border, take decisive unilateral action against the protocol.
If they obliterate the protocol they themselves negotiated and signed, that is going to result in the most almighty row with the EU. And I ask you again, given what's going on in Ukraine, isn't it kind of selfish to pit Britain and the EU against each other in that way right now?
Britain and the EU have been very strong with relation to Ukraine, and that will continue no matter what. But this is about the constitutional place of Northern Ireland within our agreed United Kingdom. We believe we are stronger together. Northern Ireland wants to be part of the largest economy in the world. It wants to benefit from being part of the United Kingdom, and therefore it is absolutely vital that the constitutional position is restored. The very basis of Northern Ireland, we are built on a consensus, and this is undermining the Belfast Agreement. This is impacting peace and stability within Northern Ireland, and the longer it goes on, the further it erodes peace and stability and further erodes the Belfast Agreement. And it is vital that we see action, not just words.
Carla Locker, thank you very much indeed for talking to me. I'm joined now by Lord Ricketts, very, very eminent and senior diplomat for a long time, Lord Ricketts. Now, I mentioned then that overriding the protocol would create a massive row with the EU, but perhaps it won't.
Well, I think it will, and we've already had a reaction from the EU to the briefing we were hearing about just now. The Commissioner, Sefcovic, has already put out a statement saying, effectively, if you think that we are going to be browbeaten into backing down on this, forget it. We are united, there is no renegotiation risk. So they are signaling, I think, that if the British government can't be trusted to keep its word, there will be an EU reaction.
Now, we don't know what kind of EU reaction will be. This story has been going on for a long time, but when you hear people like Carla Locker talk about the fact that the unionist community feels part of Britain, just does not understand, does not accept that there has to be a border, checks.
In 2 miles, at junction 6, take the A355 exit to Slough Central.
unchecked into the Republic of Ireland, which is part of the single market. And the EU has always said we want to protect the integrity of the single market. If you don't have controls in the Irish Sea, then you have to have them along the border, or you don't have any, and it's a back door open for smuggling,
that feels slight, despite the smuggling problem, that does feel slightly like an abstract sort of theological argument that, the single market is sacrosanct, it must be protected, there must be a kind of wall around it, and it can never be breached. A little bit theoretical, given the nature of the delicate situation politically in Northern Ireland.
It clearly is a delicate situation, and the EU, I'm sure, recognise that and have got to deal with that along with the British government. In a way, this feels to me like one of those issues which is more difficult in principle than it is in practice. If in practice we could get it down to individual items on supermarket shelves and the risk that they would find themselves in the Republic of Ireland, it would be easier. But yes, the EU side are treating this as a matter of principle. If the British side also create a matter of principle that they're going to scrap the whole thing, then we lock horns in the middle of a European war, in the middle of a cost of living crisis, and we will have some kind of trade war with the EU. The last thing we need.
A real trade war? You think they would tear up the agreement with the EU?
Well, they would certainly impose some sort of sanctions, additional tariffs, additional barriers. Whether an all-out trade war, I don't know, but they are signalling that this would be serious. It would also undermine any remaining confidence in the British government when we're supposed to be united, coping with the worst European security crisis in Europe, in my working experience, to suddenly find this enormously miserable.
Rodriguez, let me ask you about something that we were discussing on the programme last week, which was the relationship between Boris Johnson and President Macron, now re-elected very convincingly. It was clearly...
In a quarter of a mile, at junction 6, take the A355 exit to Slough Central.
There was no conversation, as there normally is with other leaders, and it remains very frosty indeed. No concern that this is the nearest neighbour. In many ways, there are very, very like countries, all sorts of positions around the world, and yet there is this...
Exit at junction 6.
There certainly is. I would say it's broken, actually. I think there is a real lack of trust in Boris Johnson as far as President Macron is concerned. Clearly no...
In a quarter of a mile, at the roundabout, take the third exit onto Tuns Lane, A355.
Enormous energy they're building on a new nuclear power station in Somerset. So we do need to have a working relationship with France. I think it's possible to build it back gradually, starting with cooperation with Ukraine. But what would scupper it would be the British government now to tear up the Northern Ireland Protocol. Because that would just confirm all President Macron's worst fears about not being able to trust Boris Johnson's
work. If you were back in one of your old jobs, you'd be begging Liz Truss, just don't do this.
Don't do this. Find a way of doing it through arbitration, through discussion and negotiation, where I think something is possible if both sides show goodwill.
I think it's safe to say we're not a huge supporter of Brexit, but when you look across the situation at the moment and you look at the state of the British economy, it's fair to say, is it not, that the more blood-curdling warnings of disaster if we left have not been met?
Yes, absolutely. But I see the IMF is saying that the British economy will be the slowest growing in the G7 next year and have the highest inflation. So we don't want additional burdens put on the economy right now.
I got a severe verbal spank.
Exit the roundabout onto Tuns Lane.
Earlier on. Let me ask you one final thing, which is the overall position vis-a-vis Ukraine. You're wearing the Ukraine badge there.
Yeah.
Now, we had, again, comments by Defence Secretary Ben Wallace saying that Putin was behaving very, very like the Nazis. And
in a quarter of a mile, turn left towards Sippenham Lane.
For the Russian president, which is probably morally absolutely right. You see what's happened in Bucha and other places in Ukraine. But on the other hand, if there is going to be some kind of negotiated settlement, rather than this war dragging on for years and years and years, the Russians have to find an out. What do you think about the language being used by Liz Truss, Ben Wallace, and Boris Johnson?
I don't think we should have inflation of the rhetoric, honestly. I think that is dangerous. Personally, I don't think it's dangerous discussion. I don't see how...
Turn left towards Sippenham Lane.
...anything that Putin would regard as sufficient to justify what he's done. So I fear it is going to become a kind of hostile stalemate.
Continue for 1.5 miles.
Impunity, and that we will pursue anyone who are charged with war crimes. I myself wouldn't escalate the rhetoric more than necessary. Diplomacy has to be left a space to work.
Lloyd Brickets. Interesting as ever. Thank you very much indeed for coming in. Coming up next, I'm going to be speaking to Donald Trump. Well, not exactly Donald Trump himself, but the next best thing. Bertie Carvel, the Olivier award-winning actor who's playing him in a new play called The 47th. The time now is 6:47.
Coming up at 7, Ian Dale leading Britain's conversation. Next on LBC.
Wearing glasses can make you look intelligent,
That's right.
but not in William's case.
What? Sorry, what?
William knows pi to 30 decimal places. Yeah, he knows the whole of Hamlet's soliloquy, and he knows how to rebuild a car engine.
It's true.
But he didn't know that stylish, well-made glasses start from £19 at Specsavers. So his expensive glasses that he bought elsewhere just make him look a little bit daft.
Oh dear.
Complete single-vision glasses from £19 at Specsavers. You know you should.
Heard about Non-Viet, the Vietnamese restaurant that needed some help from GoDaddy. One day the owner's like, the rival store next door is taking all our customers. What do I do? Then the waitress has a great idea. Use GoDaddy's email marketing. We can communicate with existing customers and keep them coming back for seconds. So now Vietnamese cuisine has become super hip. And now everyone's like, I love the stir-fried tilapia fish. Or as the Vietnamese call it, khao sou phi sao lang. For all the help and tools you need to grow online, GoDaddy.
Hold on to your mugs. EE's Full Fiber is here. New broadband that can handle anything. And whatever you think that means, times it by a zillion and dip it in chocolate. Because this broadband connects 100 devices in your home. Search EE Full Fiber.
18.3% UK availability. Check coverage at ee.co.uk.
New Sky Broadband Gigafast has arrived. Want it bigger? Gigafast. It's 25 times faster than our standard fiber, with an average download speed of 900 megabits per second. So get ready for Sky's fastest ever broadband. Gigafast.
Already available to 24% of UK homes, and we're adding more every day. Comparison based on average download speeds. See sky.com.
Leading Britain's conversation. LBC tonight with Andrew Marr.
The time's very nearly 6:50. This is a lovely studio, but it's very hot and rather dry. And at the end of every show, what I tend to do is hoof it off down to a pub and hoof down a pint of pale ale. But yesterday I didn't. Yesterday I went to the theatre, to the Old Vic, to see a play which was extraordinarily mesmeric, because I really thought I was in the presence of Donald Trump. It was an unsettling experience, to say the least. But Trump was right in front of us, talking as Trump, looking as Trump, which was particularly remarkable because he doesn't look much like Bertie Carvel, the Olivier award-winning actor who plays him. He and Mike Bartlett, the playwright of The 47th, as it's called, came in, and I started by asking Bertie Carvel how he transformed himself into Donald Trump every night.
So there's a prosthetic neck, body padding to give that